Hello everyone, I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to the Audio Analyst. Well, with the Capital Audiofest 2022 in the history books, I want to begin to share with you what an exceptional show it was. Now, I got in early Thursday evening, and after I checked in, I headed next door to enjoy a sinfully good smash burger with friends before ending up in the Potomac room just off the atrium floor, the room where I would deliver my Friday night LP session. Now, I was privileged to assist with the final voicing and setup of that room, and we all called it a night just after 2 a.m. Friday morning. Now, as busy as Thursday evening had been, Friday morning registration was insane. In fact, Friday turned out to be the busiest day of the show. While Saturday is typically the most attended day of such three-day events, every exhibitor I spoke with agreed that the traffic Friday was heavier than they saw Saturday. And Sunday, which usually sees virtually no traffic and empty hallways by 1:30 or 2 p.m., was busy right to close and after. Yeah, this was a very successful show. It seemed that everyone else wanted to be there as much as I did. Now, show owner and organizer Gary Gill found some time to grab a beer with me at lunchtime Friday, and we talked about what may have contributed to this slight attendance anomaly. First, more people are working from home than ever before, allowing them to adjust their schedules to work later into the evenings, earlier in the week, or to choose to work over a weekend, freeing up time Friday to attend the first day of this amazing show. Second, Friday, November 11th, was Veterans Day, so federal, state, county, and city employees, and all those who would normally be using those suspended government activities and services, had the day off as well. Finally, it was cold, overcast, and rained all day. What else were people going to do? But regardless, the crowds were big, and the vibe was uber inviting. Have I mentioned that this is one of my favorite shows on the annual show calendar? Today, in my first episode on this show, I want to talk about a few standout rooms that, as good as they were, didn't make it into my top 5 for this year's event. There can be only 5, after all. And for clarity and expediency, I will post full equipment listings with pricing in today's description section for all the rooms that I'll be discussing here. Okay? Here we go. First, I want to talk about room 621, hosted by Gershman Acoustics. This year, Eli and Ofra were featuring their slightish Grand Avant Garde loudspeaker, just 39 inches tall and weighing 82 pounds. With its gracefully tapered, truncated cabinet and sloping baffle, it utilizes a 1-inch soft dome tweeter, a 3 1/4 inch carbon fiber midrange, and an 8-inch dual coil aluminum woofer. It also features Eli's new patent-pending backwave control technology. Now, essentially, BCT works by venting the woofer's backwave into a shallow, rectangular trap fitted to the base of the speaker enclosure. This additional customized chamber helps further dissipate the woofer's backwave, offering significant reduction of intermodulation distortion and driver re-radiation. Now, this sleek and effective bass trap is further augmented with the use of isoacoustic footers. I was immediately drawn into this system's remarkably intimate presentation, as well as offering a disarming liquidity and remarkably faithful tone. Its ability to present instrumental and vocal individuality was exceptional, placing it among the best performers in this regard that I heard at this show. Their unusually fine resolution, combined with this remarkable tonality and subtle dimensionality, afforded both a wonderful sense of space of recordings and an enhanced level of musical transparency. Finally, I was quite surprised by their extended and articulate bass performance, especially for their given size and driver complement. The result was an exceptionally engaging and musical presentation. Well done. Next up, the Eisenhower Room, hosted by Ideon of Greece and Acora Acoustics of Canada. This was a massive room, some 2,280 square feet, with only one right-angled corner. The others are all gracefully rounded, and some unforgiving inserts and cavities in the ceiling. This room had presented some serious headaches for the Acora team last year. But rather than try to force performance in ways that were likely to be just as ineffective as last year in this challenging space, Acora Acoustics CEO Valerio Val Cora and his new Director of Sales and Marketing, Isaac Markowitz, took a more forgiving and, in my estimation, enlightened approach, turning the entire room into an exceedingly welcome space, more of a lounge, encountering relaxed mingling rather than being configured as a more traditional showroom listening space, was a stroke of pure genius. And they were presenting two remarkable systems in this inviting space, the smaller of which was made up of entirely new world premiere products. Now, Saturday morning during a press-only event, we started our listening with the smaller second system. This session included presentations by several speakers, featuring Acora's Isaac Markowitz, Michael Vamos, LA's Audio Skies president and Ideon importer, as well as Ideon's CEO, George Ligrakis, and chief designer Vasilis Tunas. Now, as I've mentioned, every product used for this impressive presentation was so new that this was their first public showing. And while I won't go into those introductions in detail, each person presented a very compelling and engaging address to our group. Now, the demo of this smaller system was very impressive, and it presented as strikingly articulate. Set up near one of the rounded corners to the right of the room, listening to Ray Brown's Crimea River revealed an absorbing presentation of the shimmer of the piano with a substantial sense of instrumental body and tonality. Bob Dylan's Man in the Long Black Coat, which I heard played on every floor from dozens of rooms at this show, presented with its breathy and natural staging. I was also taken by the presentation of the Shostakovich Symphony No. 15, with its remarkably wonderful sense of space, including a surprisingly faithful sense of instrumental bloom and body. But I think it was the markedly corporeal genuineness of McKinley Morganfield's voice and guitar from his My Home is in the Delta that pretty much convinced me of the remarkable voice of this less expensive but by no means inferior sounding system. Moving to the larger system, set up along the wall at the opposite end of the room from the entryway, proved to be yet another interesting addition. Listening first LP, I was struck by the candid delicacy of the sonic envelope, of its constituent sense of the air, space, and texture of both Louis Armstrong's voice and that of the instrumentation accompanying him on the track St. James Infirmary. Moving to a digital version of Nils Lofgren's Fragile, this system surprised me yet again, as it maintained an immediacy and presented a microdynamic expressiveness that was highly refined. While quite tonally accurate, its ability to create voices, instrumental or human, with such a convincing sense of space and size was remarkable. Such exceptional recreation of the space of recordings is typically only rendered when a system possesses an excellent degree of resolution, which in turn serves its demanding master transparency, and honestly was unlike anything I had heard from any previous demonstration featuring Acora loudspeakers. A most sincere well done to all involved. Next, Room 612 was hosted by the Audio Group of Denmark, featuring Boris and Acoustics, Avik, and Anzus. Walking into the Audio Group of Denmark room, this AGD is not to be confused with Alberto Guerrera Design, really had my head spinning. Peter Hansen, AGD's North American sales director, and Lars Christensen, the owner and founder of the group, were entertaining listeners as Lars was recounting the litany of technical accomplishments and material science advances that were implemented in this soon-to-be-released U.S. debut of the simply amazing Orison X3 loudspeaker. All electronics and ancillaries were from their sister companies, Avic and Ansers. Now, without going too far off into the weeds, as an example of the kind of tech that AGD is throwing at this new speaker model, the ribbon used in the X3's tweeter weighs just 1/100th of a gram. 0.01 grams. Now, listening to this speaker, with its seductively narrow swept-back enclosure, reveals that it offers utterly astonishing bass in extension, impact, and pitch definition, has a surprisingly natural yet vibrant tonality, as well as an excellent presentation of staging and imaging. Space was very well delineated, precisely defined and reconstructed. Further, this system created punch, real gut-wrenching impact, while presenting fine detail and resolution, without ever overstepping and coming off as aggressive or in your face. Quite honestly, if Peter or Lars had suggested that the planned retail for the X3 would have been $25,000 or even $30,000, I would not have flinched. But with a projected MSRP of $11,000, this speaker is going to be a monster. Borson is hopeful of a March release, and Peter has told me that he would be happy to swing by the audio analyst's music room with a pair once they are in standard production, and I can't wait. Next, Room 532, which was hosted by MoFi Distribution. Well, this was the debut everyone had been waiting for. The one and only Andrew Jones was demonstrating his first product designed under the auspices of MoFi Electronics, the simply remarkable Source Point 10 loudspeaker. Driven by a 55 watt per channel integrated amplifier, this completely new from scratch design from the mind of one of the most talented, prolific, and renowned loudspeaker designers of the last few decades is, in a word, a knockout. No one, least of all me, was surprised by what we heard from this new, diminutive 10-inch concentric loudspeaker. Impressed? Sure. Shocked? Perhaps. But not at all unexpected. Measuring just 14.5 inches wide by 22 inches tall by 16.5 inches deep and weighing just a tad over 46 pounds, with its grill, the Source Point 10 is both a breathtaking sonic and visual accomplishment. As Andrew went through his usual catalog of excellent demo material, including works from Count Basie to Dead Mouse, and the Source Point 10 portrayed them all with the delicacy, detail, and definition of a much more expensive speaker. And its authentic tonality, concise imaging, and realistically sized staging information made believers of everyone in the room. But one of its first truly exceptional attributes that really struck me was its incredibly fine capability with microdynamic resolution. Remarkable. Then, too, given its stature and driver size, its ability to portray microdynamic realism and the authenticity of musical scaling was just as compelling. The Source Point 10 is the whole enchilada. I truly hope everyone makes the effort to go hear this new benchmark. It sets a new bar for what can be achieved at its price point. Bravo, Andrew and MoFi Electronics. Now, finally, I want to talk about Room 512, hosted by Salk Sound and McGary Audio. Now, these two companies, run by Jim Salk and Mike McGary, have been showing together successfully for many years, and for particularly good reason. The synergy between their products simply cannot be overstated. Jim's new B Pure 3 speakers feature a new Purify 8-inch woofer and a side-firing passive radiator in the separate bass enclosure, and features a Purify 6.5-inch mid-range, mated to the Satori beryllium tweeter in the separate mid-treble cabinet that rests on top of the bass system. This pair was gorgeous, in a wood veneer that Jim called Harborica. I'd never heard of it. Jim let me know it starts out as poplar, but they pour black dye into the ground as the tree is growing, which creates that darker grain. Rated at 25 Hertz to 40,000 Hertz, standing 46 inches tall, 11 inches wide, 17.5 inches deep, and weighing 127 pounds. The B Pure 3 represents a price jump of nearly 3 times that of Jim's previous flagship, the single enclosure B Pure 2. Now, according to Mike, the new McGary Audio Stereo Preamplifier 1, or SPA1, is a very simple purist design with only 4 unbalanced RCA inputs and 2 unbalanced RCA outputs. It uses 6 BQ7A or 6 N1P equivalent tubes, 1 for each channel, is biased into pure Class A, has a precision Elma stepped attenuator volume control that allows for remote control. And because that attenuator is placed after the output rather than before it on the input side, it also allows for much more robust performance. The front panel knobs for sensitivity, source selection, as well as volume level are lit with LEDs so you can easily see their settings from your listening position. The new monoblock amp 1, or MA1, can use KT88, KT90, or KT120 outputs and is rated at 80 watts RMS into 8 ohms. Now, Gary had KT90s installed for this debut, and they developed an output of about 90 watts. And like the SPA1, it features unbalanced only inputs, but it is biased in Class AB with a push-pull ultralinear output stage and incorporates considerable storage capacitance using polypropylene capacitors, not electrolytics. Now, this new troika of electronics, the line stage and the pair of monos, also represent a significant increase in price over Gary's existing SA1E or SA2 amplifiers. In fact, these new products cost 3.5 times more than his previously most expensive products. Now, while these two manufacturers have always presented very synergistically, with a consistently strong balance of naturalness, honest tonality, great dynamics, and good resolution, this year, the products they have chosen to introduce not only represent a major step up, but aside from retaining all their trademark tonality and neutrality, they have realized huge gains in both the resolution and transparency departments, as well as in image focus and staging specificity. Now, I know they both thought it risky to make such bold moves into these price points, but I'm here to bear witness that they have both hit it out of the park with these new products. The Salk B Pure 3 speaker, the McGary SPA1 line stage, and the MA1 mono amplifiers all establish remarkable new achievements and benchmarks for their work, and for products of commensurate price and class. Well done, Mike and Jim. Great job. Well, that's it for this episode. In my follow-up episode on the Capitol Audio Fest, I'll reveal my selections for the top 5 rooms at this show. But for now, my sincere thanks for dropping by today. Please click the subscribe and notify buttons if you haven't already. Be sure to share your comments or questions, and don't forget to like and share links to your favorite episodes with your friends or on social media. Further information on supporting the channel may be found in today's description section or at my website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please stay safe and keep the music playing. Till next time.